What is a good word, everybody? Tiger727 back with part 3 of my collection purchase. I'm sure most people, at least me, when I hear people buy a collection, I guess we always seem to think vintage, right? And obviously we all have our own opinion as to where vintage ends or whatever the case may be, but I definitely don't consider the 90s vintage, as I remember the entire all the 90s. And I just don't think it's vintage anyway, but to be somewhat funny, I don't. The fact that I lived through the 90s, I am definitely saying it's not vintage. So, but this whole stack I'm going to show is 90s, maybe a little bit early 2000s, but I believe it's all 90s. And oddly enough, this stuff's actually kind of, in some ways, been more fun than the vintage part of it. And so, yeah, we'll just get right to it. The first card I'm going to show, though, is not part of the collection. I was going through another box, a 5,000 count box of something I had bought years ago or however long ago, and was entering some 94 Stadium Club into trading card database, and I came across this Fernando Valenzuela first day production. I've always liked these cards. You know, they've gone way down in value, but I'm one of those collectors. I'm not in it for value, and just thought it was super cool. Looked it up on Trading Card Database. There's 2,000 of these, and so yeah, I'm just gonna add this to my collection. Not an Orioles fan or anything like that, but it's just a cool card to have. I remember when these were a new thing with Stadium Club, and just super happy to have that. So let's get into the collection. Let's start with some 95 Select Certified Edition. Lenny Dykstra. Good old nails. Cecil Fielder I didn't have. Here's a Chad Curtis that I did not have. Matt Williams. Darren Daulton. Remember where I was when I heard he passed away? I was sitting in a hotel room in Pittsburgh with my family. 2017. Mike Piazza checklist from Pinnacle. Raul Mondesi. Schilling. It was an update done on my tablet today, and I do not know why the lighting is so goofed up on it. I can't find the settings on where to adjust the lighting, but I guess it appears to be okay. Focus seems to be a little bit of an issue at times. Wade Boggs. It's kind of funny because a lot of these players that I collected back in the 90s, I still continue to collect. However, there's really not a whole ton of modern players outside of Judge and Trout. Maybe a handful of others that I'm really player collecting. I've started some, and then I'm like, you know what? Just don't want to continue them for whatever reason. These 95 Pinnacle, I forget exactly what these are called. These are print run of, I want to say 6,500, so they're definitely not all that rare. Chris Hoyles, oddly enough, got Eric Davis in a Tiger uniform there. Another Schilling. John Doherty I didn't have. Gary Sheffield in the Great Marlins uniform. Miss those. David Need. Rob Dibble. As I mentioned, you talk about collections and what people buy, or when you think of collections, you're always thinking vintage, Mantles and Yogi Berras and Reggie Jackson, whatever, right? And I'm sure I'll run into some of that. I don't know if I'll be any mantles or not, but I'm sure I'll run in, definitely find more of that. Um, but I've been kind of, when I go to the storage unit, I gravitate towards the 90s stuff, just because I want to see what we got. Looks like I actually can grab two of these, so I definitely don't need two of them. Albert Bell I didn't have. The Indians. Another Albert Bell. The O's. Fleer Metal. Working on those sets. Charles Johnson. Speed this up a little bit. Osmus. Ken Caminiti. Luis Gonzalez. Ivan Rodriguez. Father-in-law found a few of these, a few more of these. This was, I can't remember if this was his or if this was actually in the collection, but post Jeff Bagwell. I'm working on that set. And let's see, just to show a few of these for the sake of time. Mike Gardner, Fleer Metal, Scott Rowland. Let's see, I'll show Nomar. These cards bring back so many memories. I remember opening so much of that at the card store, just hanging out with my friends. John Smiley. There's so many variations of this stuff. I don't even know if that Smiley is a variation because it's more of a gold-looking one. You got Randy Myers. But yeah, just remember hanging out in the card store. We'd be there for hours, and it was like a group of like 4 or 5 of us with the store owner, who I still consider a good friend. I don't see him very much anymore. Every once in a while, but one of these days I got to get back up and see him, and maybe let's see what else we got here. Trying to find something. Carlos Guillen, when he was with the Mariners. We would just hang around at the card store for hours and go to Taco Bell and then bring that back and just sit and talk baseball and watch ESPN, and customers would come in and we'd get out of the way so the customers could get what they want. And just the memories out of that place, places, because there was a few different locations. So yeah, some other stuff. Let's see, another Albert Bell I didn't have. Skybox Dominion. Another Pudge. Trying to speed this up here. I don't remember ever seeing this card. This was out of a different box when I was going through the 94 Stadium Club. Cool Albert Bell. Raul Mondesi, back to the collection here. Topps Finest. Luis Gonzalez. And Troy Gloss. Piazza. Phil Nevin in a cool camo jersey. Charles Johnson, the White Sox. Another Hoyles. Another Caminiti. Tim Salmon. Another Darren Dalton. Eric Karros. Raul Mondesi. This is Impact. Was a Skybox? No, Fleer Impact. Bonds I didn't have. Another Luis Gonzalez. Missed those old Arizona uniforms. Trot Nixon. It's funny, I collect him. Been collecting him for probably 40 years, and I have, outside of the sets, or my top sets, I probably have 15 of his cards. Not many. Cool Tim Salmon there. Interesting jersey he's wearing. Sleeveless. Those are cool. Another Gloss. However you pronounce it. Albert Bell. Getting down to it here. We're over the 10-minute mark, so I don't want to hold you guys too much longer. Nice Sheffield. Ken Caminiti again. Travis Lee. I'm going to save this card for last. Another Mondesi. You got Eric Karros, Mondesi, and I'm assuming it's Mondesi and Piazza. Neat looking card. JT Snow. And this is one of probably the coolest cards that I have found so far. And as soon as I saw it, I'm like, yep, I am keeping that. And I might even get it graded. It's probably a 20 or 25 cent card. But it's just a great image. I mean, you got Bagwell, Thomas, Griffey, and Piazza. Assuming it's an all-star game of some sort, obviously. But just one of those cards, I guess, that kind of brings you back to, if you think like the vintage, when you saw some of the older players together, like there's the one I think with Maris, Mantle, Kaline, and George Kell, I believe it was. Drawing a blank on who the fourth player is, but just took me back right away. I just think this is such a great card, and we'll definitely keep it in the collection whether I grade it or not. So yeah, that's going to be part 3 of my collection finds so far. Doing a show in Appleton, which will be a first for me on July 17th, I think it is, something like that. July 20th, I forget the exact date. It's a Sunday, I know that much, and gonna do that. Probably going to the National. I have a conference in Chicago for the week, 3-4 days after the National, so it kind of works out. So I'm probably going to go for that Saturday. That's the plan. And conference kind of starts on Sunday, so I'm planning on shooting out of here early Saturday morning. It's about a 4 or 5 hour ride, and spend my day in Chicago at the National. But at least that's the plan. Nothing's guaranteed. We'll see how life goes. If you stuck around this far, I appreciate it, and I will talk to you later.